Hi, so this mini lesson is a lesson that will probably be beneficial to pretty much everyone. Because even if you don't personally have a chronic illness, you likely know someone who has a chronic illness. I myself have multiple chronic illnesses. They seem to breed themselves. I am a long COVID survivor. I am epileptic. I have POTS syndrome. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and I have Lyme disease. Trying to think if there's any. Oh, I suffer from depression. So these are all things that I deal with on a regular basis. So all these things that I deal with on a regular basis are all things that the people around me have to deal with on a regular basis because they are indirectly affected by it. So I am fortunate because I worked really hard on my health. I am to a point where my illnesses are mostly managed fairly well. But that being said, I have surrounded myself with people that are understanding and understand what it is I'm going through. You don't have to be where you fully understand, because you may not ever truly understand what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, but you can learn to be there for them. So when I'm thinking about what were the things that were most helpful for me with my chronic illness, one of the things that when you're struggling is lack of energy tends to go with a lot of illnesses. And the problem with that is one of the key things you need to get healthy is the energy to do the things that you need to get healthy. So for instance, it is really helpful when people have invited me over for dinner, brought over meals. Those are really incredibly helpful things. I had to move as a result of my chronic illness. This was a very humbling moment for me. I had to have my sister flew out from Colorado to help me move from Oregon to Colorado, and my house was not in the best condition because I had not been able to maintain it as well as I would have liked. It could have been worse, but it still wasn't where I would have liked. But my sister, she came out, she packed up all of my belongings, put them into boxes. Seriously, she did a better job than I ever would have because she labeled things so incredibly well. But that is one way of she saw a need and she stepped in and filled it. And that is something that I would probably never have asked for someone to come help me, but it was something I needed. So people's pride get in the way. So you will have to sometimes look beyond that and see, if I was in that position, what do I think I would need? That is something you often have to do. And note to people who are struggling with chronic illness, try to be gracious. Learn to be gracious and accept the help. So I mentioned when my sister came out, she packed up all my belongings. Another thing that's really helpful is sometimes people coming and helping you do some chores because you don't have the energy. And sometimes even just saying to you, I get you don't have the energy to do this, but I want to help you. So let me just help you clean your kitchen. It doesn't bother me. A little dirt never bothered me. Being just really gracious and supportive. I have had people drive me to my doctor's appointments because sometimes you just don't have the energy to drive yourself, or you need someone to drive you to the appointments and be with you, or to take notes for you at the doctor's appointments. Because sometimes you're like, in my worst state of my long COVID, my brain fog was so bad. Half the time, I couldn't remember anything. And so it can be extremely helpful to have someone be there. But one of the most important things that you can do, and this costs nothing, is be there for someone. And if you're not with them in the same state, pick up the phone and give them a call. The thing is, people who are struggling often stop reaching out. And the other thing that is an ongoing struggle for someone with a chronic illness is they often end up not having the energy to do things. So, for instance, I've said this. I mean, I keep saying they don't have the energy to do things. I mean, but what I want you to understand is they might think that they're going to, and they'll make a plan, and then they have to cancel. So being someone who it's safe to cancel and doesn't get mad if they cancel last minute, someone who doesn't get mad if they have to leave a party early. You have no idea how many things I went to, and I'm someone who loves to go to the parties and go around and be around people and do things. But as I was recovering, I often would have to skip it. I would be like, oh yeah, no, I want to go. And sometimes my response usually became, well, we'll see. We'll see how I'm doing that day. And I recommend, if being still checking in, don't stop checking in, because it's so easy for people to fall into the abyss of a depression because so much of what they want to do they can't do. And helping the person figure out what it is they can do. So I was someone who was really into hiking and going out with my dog and just exploring nature and just doing that. But I had to adjust my life. For several years, I could hardly walk. And so my adventures became going for drives. But sometimes I wasn't strong enough to do the drive, but I could sit in the passenger seat and do that. So it might be, hey, would you like to go for a drive? And it might be the person can only do a 15-minute activity. And you know what? Okay, I'm good with 15 minutes. And you may have to have driven 30 minutes each direction for that 15 minutes. But that 15 minutes that you were able to be with someone is really, truly amazing, and they appreciate it. I also think back to there were times when I would be in the middle of something and like just eating lunch and suddenly I would start having a crash would happen. And that's what I call it when one of my chronic illnesses flares and my body just like shuts down. It's like it basically just slams me to the pavement and is like, you're moving no further, you're done. And if you've never experienced this, you may find this difficult to understand. But if you have experienced it, then you likely know what I'm talking about. So when this happens, a person may have I may have driven somewhere and be like, oh shit, I am not going to be able to make it home. And so you may have to be that person who is aware of the person and say, hey, do you need a ride home? Or would you like me to call you an Uber? I can call you an Uber, and then tomorrow I'll help you sort out picking up your car. There are so many ways in which to be there for someone. And honestly, the person might be not super fun to be around. because so much of the things that are important to them have been taken away. And so making someone laugh and helping them figure out ways that they can have joy is helpful. Another thing that's really good is if you do some self-education and you help figure out for yourself some knowledge about their illness. What is their illness like? Learn about it. And don't be that person who then is like spewing all you read one book, so you know more than anyone about it, because you probably don't. You read one book. They're experiencing it. So, but that doesn't mean, if you found a really great resource and you're like, oh my gosh, I read so many great things, read this book, I found it so interesting. I'm thinking that maybe there might be some great useful details in here. I would be happy to, listen to it on audio with you, or, sit and read it with you, or, leave it with you and you can peruse it as you may. But people are really, really good at telling people what they need to do to get better. And when you're sick, nothing is more annoying than someone telling you what you need to do to get better. Because, I don't know, my response, what the hell do you know? I mean, really, you're not me. You don't know. You're not experienced this. You do not know. And everyone is different who is recovering from an illness. There is not usually just one thing they need to do. It is different for everyone. So remember that, and just be supportive. But it doesn't mean if you find this great resource that it might be helpful. It might be like, hey, so I found this resource, look at it. So it seems like broccoli is supposed to be the cure for what you have. Have you tried that? You can ask. And the other thing I recommend is saying to someone, hey, I have an idea. I want to know if you're in the space to hear it right now. If you're not, no big deal. I'm not going to place it on you, but I have done some research. This is what I've found. And I'm curious if you're interested to hear what I've learned. But if you're not ready or don't want to, I'm not going to force you to listen to me. Because that's giving them the power to go, I am interested. Or they might say, I do want to hear that, but right now I'm so overwhelmed, I don't feel up to it. And the big key takeaways I want you to take away from this little mini talk is just be there for the person, sit there with them, find activities that they can do in spite of their illness. I mean, whether it be playing a board game or whether it be listening to music and going to a play. What are things that they can still do to find joy? Because joy is so important. And don't disappear. Stay there for them. Stay in their life. They need you. Even if they're pushing you away and telling you to leave. Have a great day. I hope this was beneficial, and if you have any questions, you can always email me. I'd be happy to answer and talk to you more. Bye.